welcome to the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team. And today I'm here with my sidekick from More Than Enough.
Oh, your sidekick.
Is my sidekick.
That's
and
the
why
first
would I
time
call
you've ever called me that.
Why would I call you my sidekick, Dave?
Well, because we work in two separate tracks, but exactly essential to each other.
And together so often.
Exactly. Really, that sidecar thing, now that you say that, that's exactly right. You know, sometimes you disconnect and that gets scary. So we better keep them together so we get down the road right.
So this is Dave Van Noppen from More Than Enough. So welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is awesome. We've been on their show sometimes, which is Financial Fitness Show with Lynn Fraser and her sidekick, our sidekick. Now your sidekick, Dave.
I get kicked by a lot of people.
There you go. So we're going to talk specifically today about mostly one mortgage product. Mm-hmm. We'll deviate a little bit because you know that's the only way I can roll.
Okay.
And Dave too, I think.
Yeah. Well, as we were talking about in the prelim, that there is so many products out there. It is crazy. More than ever, just going to one bank is kind of like shopping for one make, one model of car, and just ignoring all the other possibilities and things that are out there. And that presents its challenges, but also its opportunities.
Well, it does. It does present some challenges, though, because with the mortgage product, so we're going to move to the specific product in just a minute. I told you we'd go off on a piggy trail. So here's our piggy trail number one, is that even products that look the same, they may sound the same, and even kind of smell the same. When you start to dissect the fine print in the agreements, they're not the same anymore.
Yeah, it's so true. And, again, that's one of the things that we do as a broker is help to navigate, okay, what are your needs? Much the same you do as a realtor, but what are your needs? What are you looking for? What are your needs in the next 5 years? We're at More Than Enough really aggressive in getting that information. The first time you talk to us, we're drawing that out of you to say, we want to know where you're going, what you're thinking, and how that goes, because there are so many products out there. We have access to 30 different lenders, all with dozens of products that you're going to fit into one of them, absolutely.
Right.
We just have to navigate through that and find that out. And in a lot of other banks and institutions and even brokers, they don't necessarily take that way to position you right there. So that's huge.
And I think for us as a real estate professional, we're not staying in touch as closely with exactly which lenders have added extra fees, which ones are about to add the extra fees, which ones are going to add an extra little clause or execute on a particular clause that maybe they haven't executed on in the past. Correct. And so what looks the same today isn't. Mm-hmm. And this is, I've been at this 26 years now, and this is the first time I have certainly seen the diversity and the confusion.
Right.
The mass confusion that's starting to exist because it is so little the details that are being changed. Yeah. And we're talking $1,000, $2,000, $10,000 different sometimes in terms of discharge fees, extra registration fees, all kinds of crazy things where when you read the document, you actually think you're reading the same document as another document.
Right.
And they're not.
And they're not.
And not.
Sometimes not even close. Even, there's just so many little hooks and things that as you read through a legal document, and we've all read legal documents where we went, oh yeah, I really understand that. No, I didn't really understand that. But, and that's where, just guiding you through that and taking the time, again, it's a huge investment. It's a huge deal for most families to buy a house.
Right.
You see that every day. I see that every day.
And the interest rate that sounds the same often isn't actually the same. Yeah. Because the interest rate of, say, 2.8 or whatever, which is great, or we're even doing better than that these days, even the really low interest rate, if you're being told the same interest rate, my lender will match that. Yeah, well, can we dissect the document? Because I promise you that when we dissect the document, we're not getting to the same end answer.
And it is about strategy. I mean, I know you talk to your clients about strategy. Yeah. We are every day talking about, because that 2.89 mortgage may be a mortgage that suits your neighbor. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you're thinking of selling your house in 2 years or 3 years or whatever it is. Then that mortgage is not the mortgage for you, even though it might be a great rate. So you can't base your mortgage based on rate. We will get you the best rate for the mortgage that suits you. Right. Because the penalties, as you said, if you break that mortgage in 2 years, you may pay $10,000-$15,000. Well, then I would have rather got a little higher rate and got a 2-year mortgage. As an
Right,
example.
and I think what I'm finding, and I'm sure you're seeing it too, even with the exact same rate, my fees are not necessarily the same.
Never
So even
the
if I'm looking at 2 mortgages that are that on the onset look identical,
Correct.
they aren't necessarily.
No.
Depending on who the lender is it one of the monoline lenders? Is it one of the traditional big 6?
Yep.
You know, who are we?
Yep.
And so it really matters today more than ever. And it is
Can
only
we say that again?
ever. And it's only going to get more confusing.
And again, confusing is only because there's such an inundation of different products. And to help you filter through that and kind of dissect through and go, okay, well, these 10 over here, I'm not even going to look at those. And then we narrow them down. And you know, and it's much the same as buying a house.
Well, it's a little easier.
Well, you can look at it.
Right. There's not as much crazy little fine print
That's true.
as there is in these because they really do look the same.
Yeah.
And they're not.
And the other thing that, just by way of, I don't know how far off the rabbit trail we've gone, but
Piggy. We don't do rabbit.
Oh, we don't do rabbit?
We do piggy trails because of the wealth formula and the whole wealth
very good.
movement. So we do piggy trails on the
trails.
inside track on real
Piggy
estate.
trails. There we go.
Okay.
So one of the piggy trails that we don't want to go too far down, but when you are doing a mortgage, different lenders, the rules are changing for qualifying.
Yes.
Every month we get
Yes.
lists of different lenders changing their rules. So you qualified 3-4 months ago with this lender, you actually might not qualify in 6 months because the rules have changed. So, you know, that's just helping you navigate through that. That's our job, is to help you.
Because you're
do that.
watching which lenders are making those changes. I know I've had this one property I've sold 4 times now. 4. And it hasn't closed yet.
Yeah.
I mean, I've sold it 3 previous times over the last 15 years where it did sell, or close, so that's exciting. So I know the property is marketable, and yet it's in a lower price range, and that actually is making it more difficult to qualify. And all of them have had to do with the financing. None of them have had to do with the property, really. Now, it's got to do with the financing and what they're willing. So they're not only making it more difficult for a person to qualify, some of the lenders are making it more difficult for properties to qualify. Because here's a property that I've personally had either worked with the buyer or seller 3 times over the last, 20 years. And now it's back again, which is kind of exciting. So we know it's saleable. And this time the latest finance person that was looking at it said it's too old. Well, it's only 2 years older than it was last time it closed. So it's not like the property's changed really.
And we really do that. We qualify the potential buyers, and we do all that homework as far in advance as we can with as much of the details as we can. And then we say, now, we have to qualify the property. So when you find it, please, as soon as you have an offer, let us know so we can qualify the property.
Because then we know which lender to send it to. And this particular broker, it was not you, and it wasn't my buyer. It was my listing. And so, the realtor was referred the client from the mortgage broker, so they can't go to someone else. And the mortgage broker is a family member of the buyer.
Oh, there we go.
Right? So in a pretty tight box here, because my first comment to the broker was, I'll find you a lender. I got lenders that can finance this property because I've had it financed many times over. And they said, well, we can't leave because that's the connection. And unfortunately, she placed it with one of the big 6, only placed it with one of the big 6, and then went on holidays. So when it fell apart, we're stuck. And so you really want to make sure that you have a team that's available to you too, that's probably got a little bit of support staff and people that can keep the ball rolling even when emergencies come up and stuff. So those are just little reasons that you want to call David more than enough.
There we go. So, and just working together, right?
Yeah, it really does help.
So keeping communication is so huge.
Huge. Yeah. So the product we want to talk about, boy, that was a long page trail. And thank you for bearing with us. You guys are awesome. We love that you will indulge us and let us have fun with this. So mortgage plus improvements.
Yes.
There's a more and more reason for that.
Yep.
And explain what that is,
Okay,
Dave.
so a whole bunch of ways this can play out, but essentially, if you are buying or refinancing, so this works the same way for both. But if you're buying, because we're on the show,
Well,
then
it could be refinancing too, because you're on the show.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So if you're refinancing or buying and you're like, hey, there's some improvements that I want to do, And there's a product out there that will allow you to do a little prep work ahead of time. And here's the key. You got to do the prep work ahead of time. So if you're buying, you got to go in, you got to know what improvements are, and you have to get an estimate really quick and a good one. So again, having a team of professionals that will work together with the realtors, with us in financing, to make sure that we get an accurate, good estimate for what improvements you want to do. Right. And then we dump all of that into the numbers and we requalify you based on the increased value of the house. So not only you're buying at a market value, but you're saying, hey, we want to add, and you can add up to $40,000 into that as an improvement. And here's where it gets a little bit tricky.
Yeah, because I see what's coming.
A little tricky. Really, and that's why we ask for the estimates up front, because some improvements do not add value to the house. And the lenders make that choice. Right?
We don't get to tell them.
We don't get to say, and I'll use the example of a pool. We think that would be an improvement to the house.
I don't.
Well, I do, because I like swimming, right?
Well, so do I.
As a buyer,
as a person living in a home,
correct.
And yet I've watched what it means in terms of resale.
Exactly.
And that's what the lenders are going on.
And you would be more in line with what a lender's thinking. Yeah. They're going, my goodness, here, we're going to put 10 or 15,000.
Or 40.
Or 40 into a pool,
100.
Right? Uh-huh. And that's not really an improvement. So we're not going to give you the money. And we need to know that ahead of time.
And they don't disqualify it as an improvement. Nope. They just qualify it as an improvement that adds value.
That adds value. And so, but getting the financing for it will be a challenge.
Right.
Whereas if you're saying, I'm doing windows, I'm doing a kitchen, I'm doing a big renovation in the bedroom, I'm doing floors, all of those things will add value to the house. And again, there's a process that goes through, and I'll quickly walk through the process.
Yeah, please do, because I think you guys want to hear that, don't you? Tell me yes.
And we're going to do it real simple so that we can do it. So first is find the home.
Right.
Decide on the improvements.
Right.
Get the estimate.
And how many estimates do you need?
I only need one,
okay.
Really.
So one.
You may want 2 or 3, but there may be a time sensitivity there. But we need to get one and stick with one.
Okay.
So the improvements that are on there are the ones that you are going to do. If you're going to do more, you're going to pay for it outside of the financing. No problem doing it, but you might not. Then we need to send an appraiser out to actually do the appraisal. What is the value now?
So it's a physical appraisal.
In
this case, it's not a drive-by.
Not a drive-by.
It's not one done in the computer system.
Correct.
This is a real. So we may need an extra day or two for financing conditions, which can sometimes, from the realtor side of things, be hard to negotiate.
Exactly.
And yet, you're better to know that up front. So if you want to do a property with home,
that's right.
A mortgage with home,
with purchase plus
improvements, that's the word out of that. Then purchase plus improvements, then you want to ensure that you actually have some sense of that before, so that we can make sure our condition periods are adequate.
So when they're working with you, if they're putting an offer in and it's not even at that accepted point and they're saying, hey, we want to do these improvements, I'm telling them, like, if you're really serious about this and you think this is going to go, get a contractor in there. Get an idea what that's going to cost. Do you want to add it or not? Like, we're asking those questions even before we actually have that signed offer that it's a done deal. What's the worst is as well, you spend a little extra time and maybe you inconvenienced a contractor. So be careful with that one. But but once you've got the estimate and the appraisal's done, then we send the estimate into the lender. They get the appraisal. The appraisal says this is the value now. This is the value that we think it is when the improvements are done. And then the financing all rolls in and away we go. And so then you're back to the kind of the normal financing stuff that goes on.
That doesn't begin, though, until that stuff's all handled.
Exactly. Because it really is like we are setting a new price on this home that you're buying from a lender's perspective. And so now that we know what the new price is, we can see if you can finance it. Right? Okay. And so that's where, so when we're doing the pre-application, again, if you were to come into the office, I would say, yes, your income qualifies, you qualify as a couple, but we don't know that until you've actually found the house.
Right. We always will encourage people. and we need to know which house it is.
Exactly.
So if you're just joining us on the inside track now with the Real Estate with the Dekker Team, I'm Yetta Dekker, and I'm here with Dave Van Noppen of More Than Enough, and we're talking about mortgages. And I think we had an interesting piggy trail and banter in the first half of the show that you'll want to go back and listen to, because it really applies to any mortgage you're going to get, even the ones that are the refinance that your institution sends you automatically in the mail that says sign this.
Yeah.
They're probably the scariest.
Yeah, don't sign it.
Please
At
don't.
least without a second opinion. And at least without a second opinion. How could I say that more emphatically?
At least
with
one second opinion.
Exactly.
And because even ourselves being in the industry, we've signed things to later actually read it and go, can't believe we just signed that. Like, this is terrible. And yet once it's signed and handed in, it's a legally binding document.
And the lender, again, who you're with, is giving you one option.
Right.
Or maybe two, or sometimes they'll even put 3 different options on the same page. Yeah. But the reality is that you have access to so many more options, and that was 5 years ago that you talked to maybe anyone. So guess what? Things might have changed.
They might not have.
They will have
They
changed.
have. They have changed because the last 5 years, you can almost not, as a real estate professional or as a mortgage specialist, you cannot recognize the industry from a finance perspective.
It is totally different, yes.
Right?
Yes.
I mean,
it's a new baby now.
it is, and I don't think it's going to get easier.
No.
And some of it's for your protection.
Yeah.
Most of it's so that the institutions are protecting their income.
And also, we saw what happened in the States.
I know.
I mean, that's real.
Is
that's
very
not
real.
fictitious. That's not maybe that will happen.
Yeah.
We could have had that happen in Canada, except for some of the things that happened to pull us back from that edge.
Right.
And that was good. That was good stuff.
It was really good. So I'm going to say a lot. Some of this is really good stuff. Yeah. And yet in the mix of it all, there's just a lot more ambiguity. Yeah. And a lot more variables.
Well, and remember, 150 years ago, you were inheriting the family home, and even maybe 60 years ago, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 was what you were paying for a home. Now, it just is a totally different ball game. Yeah, even in the last 10 years.
Right, and it's nothing that's ever existed before. No, so it is breaking new ground. It's a new frontier, and so you really do owe it to yourself to get a second opinion. And if you're already with More Than Enough, well, then you could trust that you've already had a second opinion at some point. I don't think you need to go get another one at this point.
Go get another one.
You even would say that.
We have access to 30 different lenders with all those products. Absolutely. But if there's doubt in your mind, there is doubt in your mind, get a second opinion, because I know that you're going to get a second opinion. You're going to go all the way back to me.
Right. So
because I know what we do and the advice we give is in your best interest. Right. And I just know that, okay, great, go get a second opinion. I am not afraid of that.
No, they may be wasting their time. And so, your call. Peace of mind really is the important piece here.
Absolutely.
Right? You've got to have peace of mind. So if you're confident you've already done the homework previously, you may not need to do the second opinion homework this time, especially if you're with More Than Enough.
Yeah.
Would be.
And it may make total sense. You may say, yep, that's exactly what I want. This is exactly what it is. It makes sense for us going forward. Let's go. Right. Perfect. Let's go.
So what else in terms of purchase plus improvements mortgage? We've outlined the simple steps in the first half of the show. So if you miss them, you'll want to go back or you'll want to go find that.
Right.
And otherwise, what do people need to know?
Well, when you're doing any kind of improvement that you want to roll in, again, the biggest thing is making sure that it is going to increase not just the equity in your home, because that's important, but also your functionality. I mean, you are moving into this home. And one of the neat things about Purchase Plus is there is a timeline of about 60 to 90 days to get it done. And personally, I like it because you get a contractor in, you get it done, and you can really schedule it to say, I'm moving in after all the chaos of the renovation. And the contractors love it because they know the minute they're done, the money is there, they get paid. Bing, bang, boom. It's a really smooth transaction because, and here's again the little kicker, that the lender will hold back the amount of the renovation until the renovation is done, and then release it through the lawyer to.
So if there's deposits, because there's not a lot of contractors that will work for nothing until the work is done.
Correct.
So where does that 50%, for argument's sake,
you have to come up with that up front, right?
Okay.
So that's, you know, you might
So that's
have
an important
to,
piece to know around a purchase plus improvements. It's not quite as straightforward.
Exactly.
You may need to figure out where to get that money from short term, or have a contractor that you've done a lot of work with in the past, or we have done a lot of work with in the past, that is willing to say, we understand you're getting financing through the financial institution. We're not even going to get our money from you to do our material purchases.
Right. Exactly.
And we're going to have to either be okay with that, or you're going to have to get money from somewhere else until the institution, because they won't even release half of it, will they?
No, they will not release half of it. They are going to hold the whole enchilada. And, you know, again, all things being equal, they release it through, and they will do a drive-by after it's all done. Or
they won't even go see it?
They will do a drive-by after, or they will, if you submit the receipts. So
with
if you
pictures?
Sometimes, some lenders, on that part, they're not as
that seems
specific.
Crazy.
Well, not really, because if you've got a bill that's done, you've got a contractor, everything lines up. If there's any doubt, they're sending somebody out.
Right.
But a lot of times it's just send us the receipts, you know. And this is where, for those of you who are handyman and you say, okay, I'll get the contractor, but I'll do some of the work myself. Don't do that.
Can they do all the work themselves if they could get it done in the 90 days? Is that an option?
Sure, but then they're only getting back the receipts that they submit for the materials.
Okay.
Right?
So it's not they can't add their labor.
No.
If they didn't pay it,
that's right.
They can't
get it. So it's very strict on that point.
Wow. Okay.
Very strict. That the money stays right there until the work is done, and then you have to prove, or we have to prove, that the work is in fact done.
And you spent that much money.
And that you spent at least
so
that
sweat
much money.
equity
Does not come into play here.
Can't be part of this equation.
Correct.
So sweat equity is my favorite thing in the world, though. So everybody that's ever worked with me knows it's one of my favorite things in the world. So if you want to build sweat equity, you have to do it not with financed money. You have to do it with your own money, and that's a great thing.
That's correct.
It's just that's how it works.
That's how it works. And so, you know, they are basically saying, and this is where, you know, you guys that are doing doing the work yourself, more than happy, you can do that. It is your house, but you won't get paid by the lender. You can't tack that sweat equity onto your mortgage.
Right. Well, and I guess the good news is, if you want to do the work yourself and you've got the 60 days or the 90 days, if you're spending X, then even if some of those improvements wouldn't actually add value, you've compensated for it in your sweat equity.
Yeah, a little bit. So
right? So you could,
yeah.
if you're wise and you take good counsel, because I think where there's a fair number of good counsel, you're going to make better decisions. There's more wisdom there. And so we're able to do that with you, as is Dave. This is our thing.
And this is really helping to navigate you through that so there are no surprises at the end. Now, here's the last little caveat to this whole program, and that is that, let's say you get approved for your $40,000 and you're going along and you only spend $30,000 and you got the improvements, and that never happens on a renovation, but let's just say there's a miracle and that happens. Then the added $10,000 just gets dumped into your mortgage. You do not get the added $10,000 for some other thing that you want to do in and around the house. You approve the renovations, they're all good. We came in under budget, wonderful. So again, when you're doing the estimate with a contractor, justify it, but always overestimate a little bit. It's always better to have a little left over at the end, because that will go directly on the mortgage, and it'll pay down your mortgage a little bit quicker as a lump sum that year. So no problem. So if you're not sure and we're working on it and we're deciding what will or won't qualify in terms of the purchase plus improvement, then we can say, all right, do these things, do these things, do these things, you will qualify for that. And you know what? If we overestimate those and there's a little left over, you'll get the mortgage paid down at the end.
Okay, so then you're
it's
just not mortgaging that part, except then you've already paid CMHC premium.
Well, hopefully you're
on
not
that.
paying too much on that. Right?
Okay, so that's a whole other conversation that you're
right.
going to have to call Dave directly about. And so if you're with us on the Inside Track, one of the things I'd like to do is talk about a property. But before I do that, there is something that More Than Enough and the Dekker team have been working on for a year.
Yes.
And the draw is coming up very, very soon. And that is anybody you've introduced us to that we've actually been able to help and either buy a home or finance a home or sell a home for that matter. You have received a ballot for a trip for two, 5-star resort, all-inclusive, air flights for a week for two.
That's right.
And that draw is taking place in just a few weeks.
Yeah.
So if it is something you're not in on yet, you still got a chance.
Yeah,
we got to work fast.
We'll take them right up until the end of the until the draw. How's that?
Absolutely.
Right?
We've got to work fast, and you've got to work fast. And you get a ballot for doing the introduction once we're working with them, and they're actually going to either buy a home, sell a home, or finance a home. And they also get a ballot.
That's correct.
So only one of you, there's only going to be one draw, so only one of the others going to win.
That's right.
However, it could be the person you've introduced us to, or it could be you. This is the first time we've ever done it. We don't know if we're going to do it again, so this may be a one-time opportunity, or you may convince us that there's a reason for us to do it again.
That's right.
And then we'll have to do it again. So do call us. Yeah. Email us, let us know. We are so grateful for your introductions. We are never too busy to care for those that you care about, that we can bring our expertise to the table with, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun.
We love it.
Yeah.
And so, and we thank you so much for all the introductions that we have had, because you've given us a reason to have this draw. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah.
So thank you.
I wish I could go along.
I can't either.
No.
Unless I want to buy an extra ticket. So that might happen. You never know. We're not promising that. No. Let's just say your time frame, and you've got quite a bit of time. You're not in a time restraint. There's very little blackout around the times you can go. Christmas apparently not, but otherwise pretty much wide open. So it's an awesome opportunity. We've been there, and it's beautiful, and it's wonderful. So a property that we want to feature today is actually an amazing home that the Purchase Plus Improvement Mortgage may be the perfect fit. It's only 12 years old.
Okay.
It's in Greeley. It's $410,000 for a 4-bedroom. That's a true 4-bedroom, all upstairs, and large bedrooms. And the home has been lived in.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's the kind of home that for very little money, you could make it stunning. Yep. And increase the value significantly. Okay. So it's one that I would normally expect to sell for closer to 5, based on the size and all that it has to offer. It's on 0.6 of an acre, so it's a little bit bigger than the traditional half acre that's in that area. Double car garage. It's lovely.
Right.
I mean, it just needs a little bit of Purchase Plus. So if you're interested in that one, you'll want to give us a call at 613-860-4663, or you can email us at info@Dekker Team, and we will get you introduced to Dave. It is what we do all the time and want to keep doing, and we thank you so much for your partnership.
Yeah, it's so fun, eh?
This is awesome. Yeah. So hopefully we'll see you in a few weeks at our celebration, and there'll be draws for people that haven't got a chance to win that particular draw, but we'll still have some fun. And thanks a lot for joining us on the Inside Track on Real Estate with the Dekker Team. And thank you, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, bye for now.
What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you.